Welcome to today's Aries Solar Festival webinar. The first Solar Festival webinar in the new astrological year of 2016-17. The theme of the year of the 2025 initiative is recognizing emerging light. I'm happy to invite and introduce to you Heidi Rose Robbins, an artist, poet, retreat facilitator, and very bright, intelligent person. And today's webinar, the topic of today's webinar, the touch of Uranus, birthing the new world order, one electric idea at a time. So Heidi, the floor is yours. So please unmute yourself.
Thank you so much, Sasha. Thank you all for this invitation. I'm really moved to be in this circle with you and to feel your vibrant hearts and illumined minds across the globe. It's always such a powerful time to begin the astrological new year. And I'm grateful to begin it with you. And I'm also glad that we did turn our attention to Brussels at this time. You know, it's interesting that we're going to be talking about Uranus today, and Uranus, of course, is a planet that shakes things up, and, you know, it brings everything is sudden attacks and sudden epiphanies. So my hope is that in our time together, we can use the best and brightest and most unifying energy of Uranus as we focus in today. I do want to start by actually reading the first paragraph of the mission statement, really, for the 2025 initiative, because I'm so moved by it, and I think it's very important that we launch with it, as it were. So I just like to sound that into the space. So these are the words of the 2025 initiative. We live in the time of emerging light. The spring of humanity is coming. The winter of materialism struggles to maintain its dominance over humanity, deceiving hearts and minds, and instilling in us our worst fears. But light is unstoppable as it comes from within each of us. We know it inside, we recognize it in others, and build bridges with it, overcoming boundaries of misunderstanding and fogs of deceit. We connect each of our individual lights to expand the brilliant planetary network of light that will defeat darkness and usher the coming of spring. So beautifully written. And, you know, here we are ushering the coming of spring. And Rumi, this wonderful poet we all know, he has a phrase, and he says, of his poetry, he says, if these songs repeat themselves, then so does spring. You know, so he writes of love and illuminationless over and over and over again. And we have the opportunity to cyclically experience spring over and over and over again, so that we might practice the welcoming of spring into our hearts, and so that we might practice ushering in the true spring of humanity, which is why we gather in this group. So I'm joining you now. I've just come to you immediately from a potent circle of 25 women in Ojai, California. I was Leaf Retreat. And I had to smile when I thought about these two phrases, you know, recognizing emergent light and life retreat. And what I've been doing for the last 4 days is precisely recognizing emergent light in each of 25 women. And what we have been doing together is recognizing that light and naming it, and naming love and helping one another grow that. And such a palpable and tangible experience of brotherhood and sisterhood, and discovering how when we amplify the radiant light in each heart, that will blast through any obstruction. And such a powerful in-person experience of what a group can do to help lift the quality of light in any room, in any world, in any planet. And so I come to you quite filled up and quite hopeful. And as always, you know, when we come out of an experience of expansion, and when we get plugged into a center of light, we quite quickly have to face the realities of the present circumstances of our world. And so the experiences this morning were interesting for me, the devastation in Brussels, because it's an opportunity to stay connected to the highest vibration and use, you know, for us each to send this light and love through and to the areas that need it most, and to not close down around it and give up around it. I mean, if anything, that's what we all must do at this time, is walk with fortitude and strength and conviction in the face of darkness. What I would like to start with, as many of you know me as a poet, and I would like to start with two Aries poems, because here we are with an opportunity to start afresh. Here we are with an opportunity to plant the new seeds so that we can use this cyclic year to grow immeasurably. So I'd like to start with a poem by Miguel de Unamuno, and it's called Throw Yourself Like Seed. And I would just invite you to close your eyes even and just breathe and allow these words to pierce and enter and move within you. Throw yourself like a seed. Shake off this sadness and recover your spirit. Sluggish, you will never see the wheel of fate that brushes your heel as it turns going by. The man who wants to live is the man in whom life is abundant. Now you are only giving food to that final pain, which is slowly winding you in the nets of death. But to live is to work, and the only thing which lasts is the work. Start then, turn to the work. Throw yourself like seed as you walk and into your own field. Don't turn your face, for that would be to turn it to death. And do not let the past weigh down your motion. Leave what's alive in the furrow, what's dead in yourself. For life does not move in the same way as a group of clouds. From your work, you will be able one day to gather yourself. And I just love in that last line the spirit of the ongoing path, the spirit of the idea of reincarnation, the idea of this long path we are walking together. From your own work now, you will be able to one day gather yourself down the road. What we plant today, we harvest tomorrow. And this is such an Aries poem, because Aries, it must act. Yes, it's a sign of incredible being, but it must act. And when we come out of the, sluggishness, let's just say, at its worst, at its most difficult, at its most wretched, when we come out of the, the sort of quiet or winter of Pisces, we move into Aries, and we know that with the spring in our hearts, with the spring in our step, we have to act, we have to work, we have to take tangible steps in the three lower worlds, So it was interesting to enter, by the way, this retreat, this Radiant Life retreat. We entered it in Pisces and we left in Aries. So it was this incredibly dramatic shift from, many tears and letting go and shaking off our sadness into a sense of responsibility that, given this gift, we have to take this out into the world. We have to do our part. And so part of my premise for today is that one of the most important planets for Aries is Uranus. It's the hierarchical ruler. And what we each must do is receive the electric hit of Uranus and put it into action. We have to be open enough to that hierarchical energy of this planet, of a better way of doing things and an archetypal oneness. And we have to take it right into the Mars. So we'll come to that. But when we say, what is our work that we can invest in, under Aries, we can really listen to the cry, to the electric fire, to the dynamism, to the excitement, to the experimentation of Uranus, to give us that little jolt, to remind us that we're alive, And I love this line in this poem: the man who wants to live is the man in whom life is abundant. So this life abundant actually is what inspires us to move into action, turn to the work. So let me just share one other poem as a way in, because for me, poetry is always a way into the energy of this time. And it's something that you can palpably feel in your body, and it's something that can inspire you to your next life steps, and to use this fiery time in its best way. So this is a poem by John O'Donohue. Many of you may have heard of him, beautiful poet. And it's called For a New Beginning. In out of the way places of the heart, where your thoughts never think to wander, this beginning has been quietly forming, waiting until you were ready to emerge. For a long time, it has watched your desire, feeling the emptiness growing inside you, noticing how you willed yourself on, still unable to leave what you had outgrown. It watched you play with the seduction of safety and the gray promises that sameness whispered, heard the waves of turmoil rise and relent, wondered, would you always live like this? Then the delight, when your courage kindled and you stepped out onto new ground, your eyes young again with energy and dream, a path of plenitude opening before you. Though your destination is not yet clear, you can trust the promise of this opening. Unfurl yourself into the grace of beginning that is at one with your life's desire. Awaken your spirit to adventure. Hold nothing back. Learn to find ease in risk. Soon you will be home in a new rhythm, for your soul senses the world that awaits you. So beautiful when we're in search of inspiration, when we're in search of a courage to break out of a sameness that we've been in. And this line about soon you will be home in a new rhythm, that is so Uranian, right? Because Uranus wants to bring in the new world order. Uranus wants to shake up and wake you up in your life so that you make choices that will enliven not only you and the gift that you have to give, but will enliven all those that cross your path. This under Aries, under Aries, we want to hold nothing back. This line, hold nothing back, learn to find ease in risk. We as disciples must hold nothing back and learn to find ease in risk. We have to push ourselves harder than anyone pushes themselves into the capacity to call forth the new energy and put it to work, and not stay in the gray promises that sameness whispered, So Aries is such a bounty of the youthful energy that at whatever age we can embody. Your eyes young again with energy and dream, a path of plenitude opening before you. This is our month to say yes. This is our month to, DK calls Aries the birthplace of divine ideas, right? And we as souls, of course, are divine ideas that are set forth on this path of growth. And this is the month of the birthplace of divine ideas. So, so often when we think about the progression of rulerships in a particular sign, we say, okay, Mars rules Aries at the personality level. So the first thing we have to do is plug into Mars and fight the fight and blast through obstacles, and we can be at war with ourselves, we can be at war in the world. That's the first thing we have to do, is this Marsy energy. But what I would like to suggest is maybe the first thing we do under Aries is to invoke the highest energy available. We invoke the vitalization of Uranus. We invoke the electric fire and the pure being of Uranus. We invoke the revealer of the heavenly worlds of Uranus. And we spend our meditative time in the world of Uranus so that we are open to be touched by a new rhythm and a new order, and we are open to be a vessel and a vehicle for the idea that must come through us, specifically, that we are here to embody and enact and act upon. The personality phrase for Aries is, and the word said, let form again be sought, right? So there's something about the idea with Aries that we plunge into form again and again. We plunge into the lower worlds, the three lower worlds again and again, and we struggle our way into increased light and consciousness and love. But as we progress on the path, perhaps the plunging, back into form is a little more informed by the Uranian seventh ray new pattern, so that we don't have to plunge quite as far into form, and we don't have to wrestle quite as much before we begin to offer the beauty of our specific electric idea that needs to be added in a Leo way to the Aquarian gathering, to the Aquarius world group that is gathering and growing and gathering and growing. And it's, so beautiful. I'm just so touched when we started this webinar, because again, all over the world, here we are gathered in the name of light and in the name of love. And so I have this what do I want to say? Like this excitement around the idea of removing ourselves from the more difficult aspects of Mars, you know, here we are in Aries, and here we are with the world exploding, you know, with all this Marsy energy. And the way through and out and towards greater light is going to be to use this energy of Uranus. There's quite a beautiful, in the rituals that Michael Robbins, my father, has written about each of the signs, there's a kind of beautiful description of Uranus, and I'm just going to read that to you. This is in the Aries ritual itself, and he says, the third and highest Lord is God of lightning, God of storm. He who sets the burning ground ablaze with fire electric. He who shocks all human beings to yield unto transmuting flame impurity and dross, and thus be free. He, the Lord of Spirit, of the highest fire resident in man, demanding that this fire descend, imparting its intensity, its archetypal purity to every form below. 'Tis he who wills vibrational conformity of baseness to the heights. He sets the tempo of the fiery dancing faster and faster till the spirit dances bliss within the form. It's a kind of poetry itself. So let's listen to this. This is specifically about Aries. Aries, this is the sign in which powerful mental impressions emerge from the transpersonal self, galvanizing the lower personal self, do we hear Mars here, into dynamic initiatives as it attempts to respond to the transpersonal impulses. So if we can imagine again that this is the sign that's most connected with pure being. So from this place of pure being, we are inspired, we are struck by the lightning. We are galvanized into dynamic initiative. So, you know, Aries is such a sign of effort, but Mars can be a planet of striving. You know, we need some Mars to bust through, but we have to have the Uranian pattern to inspire us to do so. So here we are with Mars at the personality level, and we strive and we face the obstacles and we face conflict and we bust through, and then we reach Mercury, right? And Mercury is the soul-centered ruler, which allows the disciple to really become aware of the divine plan. Remember, you know, Mercury is a bridge of sorts. It releases the mind from the purely concrete, and it dispels illusion. How? Through the illumination of the lower mind. So, of course, we start to come forth. We start, you know, in a way you could say the fight becomes one of ideas and not one of muscle. We start to strive by offering illumination to our own mental vehicle and through education to all those we meet. So that, you know, Mercury becomes this beautiful bridge which leads us to this Uranian place of pure being. Ah, good. So just to plant the keynotes for Aries in holding this Uranian spirit, let's remember that the keynotes for Aries are express the will to be and do, unfold the power to manifest, enter into battle for the Lord, and arrive at unity through effort. So remember, you know, express the will to be and do. this Aries energy is so interesting because it contains such a dichotomy between the being and the doing. And I could say that we, you know, for our purposes here, we could say that the being for this point is the Uranus, and the doing is the Mars that leads to Mercury. Both are required, but perhaps we have to start, we definitely have to start from this realm of being where we are impressed with the new ideas that is ours to give. But, you know, Aries is deeply connected with this, the God, the Father, the pure spirit aspect, the aspect of being, but it must lead to action. There's always so much activity involved in the pursuit of being, right? The pursuit of being in the three lower worlds. So so often I think I get caught up with Aries and the idea of like, do it, move forward, you know, blast through, make it happen. But that energy can only come to be out of this place of pure being. And we sort of heard that in the second poem when John O'Donohue says, you know, this has been waiting for some time to begin. We've been waiting, and now we're ready to begin. And we're ready to take action, and we're ready to, this new rhythm is already pumping in us, and now we need to send it out into the world. You know, and then this second keynote, unfold the power to manifest. Uranus is the great planet of manifestation, under which the highest and the lowest meet, right? So you push into form to manifest so that the idea can take root. So we unfold the power of Uranus to manifest this new order, this new age, this new rhythm. And then to enter into battle for the Lord. Of course, you know, who and what is the Lord? The Lord can be the soul, the Lord can be the monad, the Lord can be a planetary logos, or any logos greater than our own. So we enter into battle, you know, in the very first steps for our own soul, so that we fight for a soul-infused life. We all know that matter, as you know, matter resists any kind of imposition of the divine plan and purpose. It puts up obstruction. So yes, a fight is needed. Aries is the energy. Aries is the willingness to enter into battle with anything that is retrogressive. So we do enter into battle for the Lord. We enter into that battle within our own selves on a daily basis, and that's one of our main obligations as disciples. And then to arrive at unity through effort. So yes, we do get to arrive at unity through Aries, and we do get to arrive at unity, the unity of the Uranian ideal, through effort. And in fact, the energies that come through Aries, the first ray, the fourth ray, which comes through Mercury, and the seventh ray, they all have to do with synthesis. So we do end up in synthesis after the battle. We break through to greater consciousness. And so this beautiful, you know, the series of key words that DK gives: creation, being, activity, strife, synthesis, right? Those are the 5 words he gives for Aries, are so inspiring. All you have to really do is, you know, follow the path, right? So with creation, we take an idea and we put it into form. With being, we absolutely have to assert the soul of who we are, the essence of who we are. We have to take that into a very active place in the 3 lower worlds, right? There has to be motion and action in the 3 lower worlds. The strife is part of Aries, and we have to, you know, it's interesting because what has to happen is the Uranus new rhythm has to wrangle with the slower, heavier rhythm of our, you know, present circumstance, and there is a kind of strife and discordant energy until Uranus wins the day. So we have to contest that, the heavier, denser rhythm, or the more chaotic rhythm, with this Uranian rhythm. And then we end in this beautiful togetherness, this synthesis, this homogeneity, this synthesis of you know, the highest aspects of Aries. So as we become, you know, more soul infused, we can come forth from a more unitive states of minds, and we can use Mars's strength, and we can use the illumination of Mercury, and we can build a bridge to this beautiful, archetypal, better way of Uranus. But I would just invite you, and perhaps some of you, you know, already do this. I guess I just am such a linear person that sometimes I forget to, sometimes I think of the personality, soul, hierarchical ruler, and I think, let's start here and we'll march forward and we'll get better and better and better and better and better, you know, and we finally end up at this incredible ideal. And in fact, that's not the way it works, right? All these rulers of Aries, Mars, Mercury, and Uranus are all at work at the same time. And I was talking with a dear friend of mine this morning who does the Radiant Life retreats with me, and she, you know, she has an Aries moon, and we were talking about this, and she's like, you know, that's just not the way I work in terms of this marching forward, you know, from Mars to Mercury to Uranus. She says, in fact, the way that I grow is that I'm struck with these moments of magic, these moments of transformation, these moments where, you know, we are awakened and available to greater consciousness and greater energy. And that ignites in me the desire to take action in a different way. You know, that ignites in me a desire to change my life. Because otherwise, she said, I would be stuck in this Marsy fight forever if I weren't, you know, ignited by the possibility of the new. And friends, that's it. Uranus brings and Aries brings the possibility of the new, and we all need that. Otherwise, we, you know, we can feel stuck in our old patterns and our old limiting beliefs. So every day, every new day, such an Aries theme is the possibility for the new. So I would like to now open this up to any questions or comments, for sure, about anything that has struck you or anything you'd like to hear more about.
Thank you, Heidi. Wow, it's really Uranian introduction to Aries. And yes, please share your impressions, share your Uranian ways, and in order to do that, use the function of raise your hand. It's a button on your control panel, or you can write your comments and questions in the question section of the control panel. Would be great to hear your voices, though. Usually it takes a couple minutes for people to grab their mind and enter the conversation. So I usually use this time to ask my question. And it's really struck me what you said about the resistance of matter to the Uranian impulses. And we definitely all know that that's, yeah, matter resists. And actually today at the beginning of the webinar was one of those cases when matter, in this case communication matter, resisted. And I apologize again for that was muted microphone, and so it was 10 minutes of silence, which is probably was good as well. But my question is about this resistance of the matter. How do you see, what are the main challenges on the disciples' path? And what is your own experience of overcoming those challenges?
Yeah, it's a beautiful question. Well, honestly, I'm going to answer that incredibly simply. I feel that one of the main challenges for us is to simply do our work consistently, to do the work of wrestling with our own lethargy, with our own fear, with our own fears of not being understood, with our own feelings of unworthiness, to to do the internal work on a daily basis. I mean, really for me, the word practice, maybe it's because I have Saturn conjunct the sun, but you know, the word practice is such an important word, because that is how we refine, by showing up. You know, this idea of test, trial, triumph, right? That we show up again and again for the areas where we are most resistant. And so part of the answer to that question is just like, we have to pay attention to our own internal struggles, and then and absolutely simultaneously, we have to be bringing it to whatever groups we are a part of. We have to practice showing up in a group with patience and listening and selflessness and lack of pride, all of those things. We have to really, you know, DK says specifically of esoteric groups that we are, you know, terrible to one another, that when we gather, that we have to learn to love one another within this field of brotherhood, you know. So sometimes when I'm asked a question like this, you know, yes, the world is, there's a tremendous amount of darkness right now, and there's a tremendous amount of uncertainty and fear. And I just have to come back to the most basic, which is we have to do our quiet, meditative, and rigorous internal work, so that wherever we go, we are carriers of the light. And wherever we go, we are educators. And wherever we go, we're trying to find a common language, so that these themes, as you said, you know, at the beginning, light is, love is, so that we can know that together. So I guess it's, you know, to not be distracted by what is inessential. And, you know, my theme for sure, my part to play in this is the awakening of the heart in myself and in all I meet. I am Leo rising, and I want to bring that to the largest Aquarian groups I can. So those are a few thoughts about that, Sasha.
Thank you. Definitely resonates with me, especially about opening the heart.
Yes, yes.
There are few hands, people who want to share, so I will unmute Marianne Larsson.
Okay.
Marianne, can you hear me? You're unmuted if you have something to share. Sometimes people raise their hand by mistake, so it could be the case. So I will unmute Annette.
Thank you.
Hi Annette.
Hello. Can
Hello.
you hear me?
Yes.
First, I will say thank you very much for a very inspiring talk. And I thought it was very interesting what you said, that the three rulers of Aries rules at the same time. And it struck me as just as we have the personality, the soul, and the monad, then we have Mars, Mercury, and Uranus ruling at the same time, but with different focus. When you are further on the way, then the finer energies begin to be stronger and stronger. I like the idea very much. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you, Annette. Yeah, I mean, for me, I sort of said it before, but I think it's too easy for some of us to, you know, for any of us to feel like, oh, it's a long path and I'm at this point and I'm still struggling with, you know, fighting with my neighbor or whatever, you know, whatever it is. I'm still stuck in Mars. I'm still over efforting, you know, I'm still crinkling my brow. I mean, you know, I'm still bashing through life. But at any moment, every one of those planets is available to inspire and uplift and enliven and remind us of who we truly are. And we can call upon them at any time. And yes, it's a path. And it's also somehow also a moment in time where everything is accessible. And, you know, even if we can't use the highest vibration of Uranus, if we call upon that energy, it is going to absolutely affect our current Martian, you know, dilemma, right? So anyway, I'm so grateful that was helpful, Annette. And yeah, that's how I'm working with them.
Thank you. And I also thought that we have Uranus in Aries right now, and I think this can be contributing to all the problems in the world today, because we get this new energy in Aries, and the old ideas and matters are struggling to get this new energy to work.
Yes, you know, there's a beautiful quote that I actually have right here from Esoteric Astrology, and it's about how Uranus does render Aries effective. And you know, yes, you're exactly right that with Uranus and Aries, it's an incredible opportunity during this time to inaugurate the new age, for goodness sake. So it says, it is interesting to realize that Aries, the inaugurator, is rendered effective on the earth through the organizing potency of Uranus. Aries is the source, the beginning, and the initiator of the new age and its coming civilizations, of the appearance of the kingdom of God on earth, and also of the individual initiate into the mysteries. So, you know, absolutely, this is a rich, rich time that we want to use, that, you know, this initiative, this 2025 initiative that the forerunners want to use. It's an amazing thing when the hierarchical ruler is in its own sign. It's dynamic and powerful. So yes, yes, yes.
Thank you very much.
You're so welcome.
I will try to unmute Marianne one more time if she wanted to say something or not. And also there is a raised hand by Sheldon.
Oh, good. Okay.
Hi, Sheldon. You just muted yourself. Please unmute.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Sasha. Thank you, Heidi. What a wonderful fellow Aries sister. This is marvelous. Marvelous hearing you again in this particular mode. I have my question, you know, I jumped to the world affairs situation given the news this morning. And so where my mind goes quickly is the potential of these disorganizing forces to lead to a true union within Europe, thinking of Brussels, you know, and the European Union, et cetera. And so it's kind of obvious in one sense. And thank you and Annette for just reminding me again of the fact that Uranus is already present in Aries. How do you, Heidi, think about these so-called dissolution forces that are going on? I mean, I see them, I see the constructive aspect that can be built with them, but how do you take them into account in your own thinking about Aries and other matters here? How should we view them?
Yeah, well, I guess we have to view them as a cry, an absolute wake up to summoning the forces of the good. I was just struck as you were speaking, Sheldon. I was remembering, you know, in 2001, the World Trade Centers. And when I was driving, I was in Boulder at the time. I was headed to a yoga class with a very, very masterful teacher. And there were 60 women that showed up in this room. And everyone was like, it was chaos. It was the forces had disrupted everything. And people were sobbing, of course, and talking. And it was just chaos. And she just walked in the room and she said, "Stop. What we can do now is do the most powerful practice you have done in your life to date. So be silent and let's begin." And we did the most intense yoga union with practice that I have done in my life to date. And so, you know, what these forces are about, I can't, you know, be as articulate as I might like to be, but what it's asking of us is absolutely a quieting, a strengthening, a vibrancy at our heart center, a renewed commitment, you know, and the urge to better conditions, right? That's, I mean, I just want to, that's a very Uranus desire too. And remember that quote from esoteric astrology: the energy of Uranus pouring upon and into humanity produces the urge to better conditions, to provide better forms for the occult and esoteric life, and to blend more adequately the inner and the outer man. So, you know, it's just, the call is here, the time is now.
Thank you. Wonderful example. Yeah, how do we understand the usefulness of these forces in a larger picture? Thank you, Heidi. Marvelous.
Thank you, Sheldon, for this.
One more time, Mariana, if you're unmuted, if you want to say something. And there is a question from Diana. What is the role of the opposing sign, in this case Virgo? Thank you for your service.
So the opposing sign of Aries is in fact Libra, and it's a beautiful question. And you know, DK has pretty much said that in fact, as we progress, that our 12 signs will become one. The 12 signs will become 6 signs. So in other words, the polarities of Aries, Libra, Taurus, Scorpio, Gemini, Sagittarius, etc., will become one sign. So it's absolutely true that we can't look at one sign without completely being invested and exploring the other sign. So the sign opposite Aries is Libra. Libra is a sign of profound peace and the search for balance and the search for the noble middle path. So, you know, in a way, the way that Aries needs to work with Libra is to absolutely surge forward and take action, but with patience and poise and forethought, you know, because it takes a lot to walk the noble middle path. It's a razor's edge. You know, Donald Francis has a beautiful picture of the disciple walking across this like tightrope in Libra. So Libra invites us to say, we can't do this alone. You know, of course we can't do this alone, though Aries would like to think so. So we have to slow Aries down, have Aries consider a bit the most peaceful and the most graceful way to be heard in the world, you know, because people, if we want to change minds and wake people up and ignite hearts, people have to feel received, they have to feel listened to, they have to feel understood. And that's where Libra can come in. Aries might just say, listen up, this is the way it is, right? But Libra brings in the quality of Venus, right? Which educates the Marsy part of Aries and says, let's work together. I admire your fire and your can-do, but let's make sure that we offer it in a way that will truly bring a dynamic peace to the world.
Melia shares the quote from the mantra, and bring to light the love which underlies the happenings of the time. I think it relates to your comment before this about the light.
Yes, yes, yes. And I realized that I don't even think we sounded the Aries soul mantra, which is I come forth and from the plane of mind I rule, right? And even in that phrase, the plane of mind is absolutely connected at a certain level to Uranus. So, you know, you rule from the plane of the archetype of the new pattern, of the new piece.
One of the focuses that the 2025 initiative will try to bring this year is work with dissipating the glamour of fear, and considering today's events and events that unfold in the world in general these days. How do you see how can we actually work with this glamour of fear? Because we often live in a glamour without realizing that, like, actually what we see is glamour. But fear is the worst of all, probably.
Yeah. Yes. Well, I'll just speak from my own personal experience because, you know, every day I think we all, you know, it'd be fascinating to just watch throughout a day, as DK often asks us to do, you know, to do a kind of review about the number of times we have something come up, and whether it's fear of our own, you know, safety, whether it's fear of loss, fear of love, fear of losing loved ones, fear of not being good enough, whatever, all of these things. I mean, it would probably be a ridiculous number that rears its head. And, you know, fear is such a sign also connected, I mean, it's connected with all the signs, but, you know, Scorpio has such a battle with the dark. And I stop, I breathe, I try to lift the fear into the light of day, you know, lift the fear into the light of day where it can really be looked at quietly with perspective, with the heart and mind involved. You know, for me, it's always about breath, because when I am fearful, I am clenched. And if I can breathe, then all the energies begin to move again, and I can utilize higher states of consciousness to dispel the fear, you know? So it's as simple as it is. Again, it brings me back to the practice of stillness and breath, and tangibly holding something into the light of day, like really imagining that you're scooping this fear and that you're watching it shrivel into the light of day. And if we all can also, you know, also, I just want to say this, I think so many of us walk around in a very scorpionic, secretive way with our fears tightly clenched to our chest, and we don't articulate them. We don't share them. And the moment a fear is shared, we can begin to converse about that. We can begin to share, you know, we can begin to laugh about it at times, but it has to be spoken into the light of day. Even if you just are in your own house by yourself and you speak it out and you give voice to it, it will start to lessen in intensity. So, you know, these are some of the things that I do, and it's an ongoing dance. But it's the work we all have to do in order to lessen the terror that is, you know, consuming the world right now.
Very true, very true. There is a question. Bob Jordan asks, is there some way the titles of the poems Heidi shared could be posted? If you have them maybe on your screen, we could share that. If not, maybe you can just name them again.
Yes, I can name them again, and I know Bob, so I can send him the poems. But they are For a New Beginning, and that's by John O'Donohue. And he has, by the way, this is good for all of you to know, just the most beautiful book of blessings. That he writes blessings for everything. So it's like blessings for a new beginning, blessings for grief, blessings for a death, blessings for feeling disheartened, and they are extraordinary. I think they're very, I think they speak to disciples in a powerful way, and all the stages of the path. And then the other poem was called Throw Yourself Like Seed, and it was by Miguel, capital D-E, and then capital U-N-A-M-U-N-O. And they're both, you know, I'm an, you know, if you want to work with the energies of any given sign, find a poem because, and read it out loud, and you will have a different experience of those energies.
Wow, so beautiful and very powerful.
Yes.
I think time-wise, we are getting close to the time for our meditation.
Wonderful.
So thank
So,
you, and let's
yeah,
go to meditation.
all right. Ah, so let's all just grow still, make sure that we are physically comfortable, allowing for the breath to move with ease and grace. Feeling our spine in alignment. Feeling the vibrancy of our hearts. The light of the ajna. The crown, the light of the crown. And identifying with soul. I'm just going to read this one phrase, one more, as a kind of seed thought. The energy of Uranus pouring upon and into humanity produces the urge to better conditions, to provide better forms for the occult and esoteric life, and to blend more adequately the inner and the outer man. So let us envision better conditions. Let us take a moment to envision a soul-infused world, a better way. And as we imagine these better conditions, ask yourself, under Aries, what initiatives remain for you to undertake? And what new ideas want to be planted in fertile ground? Let us imaginatively follow the electric fire of Uranus in its own small way, touching you, and imagine how it can ignite Mars in your chart. So, what actions need to be taken from the highest spark? And call upon Mercury to illumine the path forward, releasing any limitations of your concrete mind, inviting in a stream of intuition about how this striving will unfold. And hold the mantra, I come forth, and from the plane of mind, I rule. And just ask, who is the I that comes forth? And how does that I rule? And how can that be of benefit to humanity? And imagine each of us coming forth as the soul and meeting in this springtime of humanity as I sound the great invocation, as we sound the great invocation. From the point of light within the mind of God, let light stream forth into the minds of men. Let light descend on earth. From the point of love within the heart of God, let love stream forth into the hearts of men. May Christ return to earth. From the center where the will of God is known, let purpose guide the little wills of men, the purpose which the masters know and serve. From the center which we call the race of men, let the plan of love and light work out, and may it seal the door where evil dwells. Let light and love and power restore the plan on earth. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Heidi. It was very powerful presentation and powerful meditation. Thank you.
Yes.
And thank to everyone for joining today's webinar. And with this webinar, we enter the period of the higher interlude of the year of the three great spiritual festivals of Aries, Taurus, and Gemini. And usually at the end of our webinars, I just announce our next webinars, but this time it's not just announcement, but also an invitation as we enter this higher interlude period. We invite all of you and all of us to stay inwardly tuned with each other and extend this attunement outwards to all people of goodwill. And especially we invite to do that during the coming Vesak festival. And so our next webinar is going to be on April 9th. It's going to be new moon webinar when we will inaugurate this cycle of Taurus and we will start building up the energies towards the Vesak. And on April 20th, the first day of the Vesak festival, we'll have our webinar, which is going to be alignment, symbolic planetary alignment with where we'll have panel of representatives of 5 continents coming together, and that would open the 5 days period of the festival. And what I want to invite you to is not just these webinars, but to attend as many different events and meditations and meetings during the Vesak festival, and join in as many online meetings that will be happening during that period. The Arcane School Conference will be happening in New York, and they will have a live web stream, so please join those. Moria Federation and Blue Rose Sisterhood will have their webinars. The last day of the Vesak period will be an international conference happening simultaneously in many different countries when people will be joining via Skype. This conference organized by Latin American network of esoteric groups. If you're interested to join that conference, please contact us. We will forward your requests to the organizers. But we also invite you to organize your own meetings, and maybe some of those meetings you would even want to have online. And so we would gladly share the platform that we use for our webinars, the World Service Network platform. If your group is interested to do that, please contact us and we will coordinate it with other groups who will do that during that period. And the main thing, I invite you to see this festival literally as a festival. So it's time to celebrate, aligning to your highest self, and invite your friends. And maybe not always would be appropriate to have a formal meeting with meditation as we usually do, but just to be together for the highest alignment. That would be a really good way to celebrate Vesak and be connected in a planetary network of light. Thank you again. Happy Aries Festival. Love to all and blessings. Let's stay connected.